Welcome, listeners, to the Mr. Poppers talk show. Mr. Poppers Penguins talk show. I am Marcus, and I'm a fifth grade student in Mr. Grillo's class.
I am Logan, and I'm a fourth grader, also in Mr. Grillo's class.
I am Riley. I'm also a fourth grader, and I'm also in Mr. Grillo's class.
In this podcast, we are going to be explaining Mr. Poppers Penguins, the book. The book titles Mr. Poppers Penguins, obviously, and the authors are Richard and Florence Atwater.
The main characters are Mrs. Popper, Mr. Popper, the children Janie and Bill, and Captain Cook and Greta. Captain Cook is a penguin. He was the first penguin to arrive from a Milo Drake. A Milo Drake is the guy who doesn't live in the Arctic, but he's an Arctic explorer looking for penguins and helping them not to go extinct. Greta is Captain Cook's wife, which comes at the kind of the middle of the book, and that together they have lots of children. And Mrs. Popper is Mr. Popper's wife, and Mrs. Popper is the one that sometimes takes care of the penguins. Mr. Popper is the one that takes care of the penguins the most. He helps them, and he's a big fan of Amaro Drake.
Now I'm going to talk about the setting of the still waters of Mr. Popper's house. In the still waters house, I don't even know how they fit 12 penguins. And later in the book, they have a bunch of snow flooding. The setting changes a little bit when the penguins arrive, because they have a perfectly normal life with no pets. And then since the penguins flood in, and it kind of just changes everything.
Now I will be talking about the plot summary. I will be briefly outlining the main events of the story. First, Mr. Popper was a home painter, and all of their houses in Stillwater, 108 Stillwater, they were all the same colors because he was the painter of them. And then he got on the newspaper because he met Admiral Drake, and he was a huge fan of him. And he knew that he lived in the South Pole, but not in the Antarctic. And Admiral Drake hooked him up with a penguin called Mr. Captain Cook. And also, in the story, Captain Cook gets sick, and they have to go to a veterinarian hospital for him. And when they were done, they got him unsick, and they got a new penguin called Greta. She was a girl, and they got from the aquarium, and they got their home downstairs in the Popper's basement. And they started to, and she had laid eggs, and she laid one egg 1 week, another egg the next week, and there was 3 eggs at the end of the 3 weeks. So then they kept making eggs, and they got 12 penguins, and they started practicing in their basement with a piano that Mrs. Popper is playing with her gloves on, and she's going pretty good. They practice formations and stunts, and they get to go on show, and every show/performance is $5,000 for them. The most surprising part of the story for me is how at the end Mr. Poppers, had to give the penguins back to Admiral Drake.
My favorite
I
parts?
would recommend the book because it doesn't only share that anything can be an animal, but it also teaches you about you can do anything that you set your mind to.
recommend about the book is that there's a lot of surprising parts in it, um like how Captain Cook gets unsick and all that. And there's also other parts of where um like Greta comes along. They got her from an aquarium, and like Marcus said, and yeah.
I would recommend the book because it has awesome photos, awesome story, and it's just a great book in general. And I like the, I enjoyed the book the most. I enjoyed the book the most because I liked how the story plot would go up and down and up and down, and you would never know what would happen in the book after something happens.
My favorite parts are also I feel happy for Captain Cook whenever he gets on sick. I feel happy also for Captain Cook whenever he gets a roommate. I feel also happy for Captain Cook whenever he has children. I feel good for Mr. Popper and Mrs. Popper because finally they got some pets and they get to go to a theater to train their penguins and stuff, and their penguins get trained of like all these cool stuff and get to do like tricks in the theater. And Mr. Greenbum, how gave them permission because they asked, and since this great person couldn't come because they didn't know where he was at, they let the poppers go on, and they told them that they should probably practice in the room. But then the manager came in and started saying that the people were demanding their money back, and then they went on stage to help, and they ended up doing good.
My favorite part was in the book they got where Captain Cook got sick, and then they got Greta, and then they walked them around on a leash, and the cops came because of Karen or whatever her name was. She got mad at them for walking a bird by her baby, and the cops came and the cops let them go. And my favorite funny moment in the story was when they performed the ladder trick, and to be able to get them down and stop doing the ladder trick, they had to get rid of the ladders and then they had to catch them.
My favorite part was when the whole house flooded with snow and then the penguins were just having the time of their life. And it was also my favorite funny moment because it was just pretty cool.
My least favorite parts of the book were less enjoyable, or like the first parts where he was painting it and he kept saying the Proudfoot Avenue and how he got the penguin, and all they did was like all the penguin was doing was like running around and getting in trouble and stuff, and that wasn't really that like fun to read about because it's like not exciting. What was there anything you would change about the story? Yes, I would change some of the plot on how it starts.
My least favorite part was he whenever Captain Cook got ill, and it makes you think that he's just gonna like go oof. So, but then it changes to be happy ending. But like also like Marcus said, I like the exciting parts better because like the other ones are not that interesting, and just like they don't give you enough information because whenever they just say the same stuff over and over again, it just gets annoying.
My least favorite parts was also when Captain Cook got ill because he was one of the main characters, and he and I feel like he made a really big difference in the Popper's life. So if he went oof, then it would be really sad.
Yeah, that was pretty sad.
Yeah, that was.
Our book that's similar to Mr. Poppins Penguins I also like to read is kind of like, well, I don't really read much books. So I think I would compare it to like other novels that I would read. And yeah, it's similar because they all have like one of them gets ill and oh no, and then it's like, oh, I'm back alive again, and then it's like, well, I guess if I would ask the authors one question, probably would be, why did you choose this book to write about?
I'm gonna tell you about the authors now. So the authors' names are Richard and Florence Atwater. The book was written in 2010, and the movie was made in 2011. If I could ask them one question, it would be, how did this book inspire you in life, and maybe something else. I don't know.
Now I'm going to be talking about the conclusion of the story. This is going to be the end of it. I'm going to summarize key points discussed and share final thoughts on the book. And thank you. Okay, so the summary of the key points. I'm summarizing getting Captain Cook and how he's getting sick. Captain Cook, how they got him, because Mr. Popper was always a fan of Admiral Drake, and Admiral Drake lived in the South Pole, and he always wanted to have a South Pole penguin. So he talked to Admiral Drake, and Admiral Drake sent him a present in the mail. And in the mail was a penguin. And he just started making stuff in his house for him. He got sick because he was getting overheated, and he wasn't getting much attention, and he wasn't eating anything. So that's how he got sick. I think the final thoughts on the book are, I think it was a really good book. I would give it a 7.8 out of 10, and it was one of the best books I've read. So, and thank you guys for listening.
To this episode,
Hopefully you guys watch the next episode of another group doing this.
Bye.